right, so we will get started. Thank you so much for coming, for everybody who is here. I know it is difficult with a Saturday and with a job and working and with children. And, the people that are here, it is totally awesome that you are, because you are an advocate for your child or some other people. And let me just kind of tell you my background before we get started. My name is Michelle Henderson, if you don't know me. And I was just telling somebody that I went through my spiritual awakening in my 20s, but as a child, I did experience some interesting energies and spirit coming to visit me. And I grew up in Abilene, Texas. And in Abilene, there's 3 Christian colleges. And so very, very conservative town. And so a lot of people didn't believe it, or they were scared of it or afraid of it. And so I kind of put it on the back burner because I became scared of it too. I couldn't sleep at night because I could feel the energy. I was always sleeping with either my brother or my parents. So, and then whenever I was in my 20s and became spiritual aware, I found a psychic medium to actually help me. So I found a resource to really help me on my journey. And she was so helpful. And then I decided to come out the closet, right before COVID as a psychic medium. And I took some classes from Lisa Williams, and it was a 9-month class. So I got to meet all of these people, and there were 30 of us that went through this 9-month class. And we got to know one another, and I heard their stories saying they went through the same thing as a child. They didn't know what to do. Their parents didn't know what to do. And so, last March, I all of a sudden, and they say that when spirit talks to you, you kind of get a download, of information. I just knew that I needed to write a book about how to help psychic children. And I knew exactly what needed to be in there. And I was kind of guided through the process. I thought, oh, goodness, I need to find an editor. I don't know if I can do that. An editor came. So you know that you're on the right road and the right pathway when spirit starts putting people in your way to help you. So again, I really want to thank you for being here. Now, when I go through this program, all right, I want you to take bits and pieces that are for you and your life, because I've worked with children for 30 years, and I worked with children as an autism behavior specialist. So I tend to be clinical, and I don't mean to be, but that's just a part of who I am. And I've also been a teacher and a diagnostician. So I think also with everything put together, God put me in this pathway. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's going to be a PowerPoint, and we're going to do a case study. And because I know one of us is at work, and what I'll do is we'll kind of open up more discussion instead of putting everybody in the rooms and trying to figure that out. So let me go ahead and start the PowerPoint. I will be talking probably for, I would say, an hour. And then, I'm going to close it because I know you've got things to do, people to see, children to play with. So, all right, let me share my screen with you. And then whoever is not here, they'll be able to get a link to this on YouTube so that they can actually see it. So that's one reason why I decided to go ahead and do a PowerPoint. All right, let me go ahead and get started. It's kind of hard for me to multitask sometimes to get to push buttons and get it started. All right, so you're in the right place. If I know there's so many events out there, but Embracing a Child's Intuitive Abilities webinar. And what I feel like is so important in that title is embracing. So a lot of kids, will tell their families, tell their mom and dad what is going on. And, we don't embrace it. We either get the sage out and we are afraid of it. We want to clear that energy. We want to clear the room. But in reality, these kids are going to be bringing spirits home with them because they are like a magnet. They're like a lighthouse. And these spirits parents love to attach themselves to children because they are so open. So we need to teach them how to embrace it and not to be afraid of it. And I'll talk about the history and everything else because I think it's really important for us to go through the history of where we are today. So education is so important, and it kind of, you understand where I'm talking about. Now, if you haven't bought the book, okay, Spiritual Nurturing for Intuitive Children, and you are here today, not watching it, but if you are here today, I'm going to give you 20% off. And if you want a copy, I will mail it to you. Don't go to Amazon. I can get you 20% off. And so just let me know. And a lot of this information is from the book. And so, because, I have to have a guidance to follow. If you want to become a member of my website, it's $7 a month. And what you'll do is that what this gives you access is we meet once a month, just like this. Now, I don't have PowerPoints. It's more of a discussion because some people, once they start working with children, it's like they need guidance. It's like, what else do I need to do? So we all meet once a month. There are video tutorials. There are extra exercises that are not in the book. I just wanted, because after the book, I found some more exercises I wanted to include, and, it was too late because it was published. And then you'll also have access to templates, graphics, or information that will provide you with more tools. So and you don't, once you register for 1 month, you don't have to continue. So you're not like having to pay a contract or anything else like that. But I just felt like I need to get the word out. I need to help educate others, and also you educate me, because I may not have an idea that you have. And I think that is really, really important. Okay. Because every situation is different. So what we're going to be talking about is, why should parents seek information for their intuitive children? Characteristics of children with psychic abilities, because a lot of times, how do you know? That's one question that I'm asked a lot. How do I know that my child is intuitive? Because sometimes they can just be children, right? And imagination, how do I know the difference? Why do we need to talk about spirituality? And then intake sessions, there again, it's clinical. We're going to talk about what information, if you're working with parents, what information you need to get, or if you are a parent listening, then things that you need to think about whenever you are working with your child. And then we're going to go over a child's information, it's a pretend one, okay, scenario, and things that we can do to help this child. We'll kind of talk about developing goals, and then we'll have questions at the end, okay? All right. So before we get started with all the good information, what really helped me too is watching the series Psychic Kids, and you can find this on YouTube. And what this is these are people who were intuitive children themselves, go in and help families. The one thing, when you watch the series, you don't know what's being staged. You don't know what is true. And you don't know what happens to these families once the camera and the people that we're helping leave. So that's why it's important to really find a resource, a light worker that you can talk to as a parent, or if you're trying to help children, someone to bounce ideas off, so that we can continue to help these children. This is a very short clip over interview about two of the hosts that helped these children that were psychic themselves. And then I'm going to bring up some key factors that they talk about. If you cannot hear it, you can, and let me know, chat, or show share a face and say, I can't hear it. Because that can, I don't know if I shared the sound. I might have to stop share. Okay, so we talked, I love what they talked about. A lot of them talked about how lonely they are. And they didn't know what direction to go. And so once they found themselves and they accepted and they embraced it, now they're able to help the children. And so I just found that clip just being amazing in itself. And let me go to the next slide. And I think it really talks about what they went through, but loneliness is the number one thing, that they do feel lonely. Well, sorry, technical difficulty. I think I have to finish it. I think that's what it's trying to tell me. All right, so we go continue. All right, so why should parents seek knowledge? So again, knowledge is very, very powerful. So what is next when they finish the training? So just like I talked about, is that you don't know what's going to happen to these kids, right? And so, especially if you're in there and you talk to the parents and you say, okay, you need to go ahead and do this. But what if they don't know what to do once you leave? So you need to make sure that the family has the tools and that you have the tools that they need. And then we want to assist the children to fulfill their spiritual journey. All right. So how do you know? And I'm going to, before I go on, for some reason, and I know I apologize totally, but for some reason, I can't see y'all anymore. So it's like I'm only seeing the PowerPoint. So let me see if I can change that. And if not, if you need me, turn off your microphone if I can't get it, because I don't know what I did differently. So how do you know that your child is psychic or has that intuitiveness? A lot of these children have empathy. So they'll come home from school and they'll be very, very sad if their peers are sad. And so you just know that they don't understand why they're feeling a certain way if it's not their feeling. So that can be scary. They can have an imaginary friend, and this could be a spirit guide. They may feel different energies in different environments, and that's exactly what I had. I couldn't see them, but I could definitely feel them. The child may become sad in one environment and excited in another environment. I know that whenever I would go into antique stores, especially as a younger child, I could feel that heaviness of all the energy around, and that was very overwhelming. And then being in a crowded place, you can feel all of the energy. So they may be afraid to be with others in a crowded place. And they also may be seeing and talking to family members that have deceased. And that is definitely, now there's a difference between psychic and mediumship, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit. Okay. So they may be having those real experiences as a dream. A lot of times spirits will talk to you in dreams, and they may be having a conversation with a loved one who has passed. They may remember a past life. Okay. They may remember a past memory, name, or a family. A child may have a close bond with an animal. They just know how the animals feel. Or they may tend to eye gaze above someone's head because they can see someone's aura. They may not know what it is, okay? And of course, a lot of these children are very creative. Now, indigo children, this has been going on for a long time. We've had children with every generation that have been very intuitive. And it's interesting how we name these children. So Nancy Tate, she was a parapsychologist, and she could see the aura around people. And these children, she could see indigo color around them. That's where they come up with indigo. So according to Nancy, these indigo children in the 60s, their goal was to reincarnate on Earth and born with a purpose of starting a spiritual evolution for all humans. So very, very interesting how they, each one has a goal. The second generation, Doreen Virtue, is the one that talked to angels, and they gave her this information. So crystal children were born after 1995, all right? And these children, the goal for them is to bring love and peace to the planet. Many of them have been diagnosed with an autism spectrum disorder. And I do want to tell you that a lot of people go, can my child actually be intuitive if they are special needs? And the answer is yes, they can actually be in tune. A lot of times when I was working with a child that's under the spectrum, they'd be gazing up in the distance, and you could tell that they were looking at something, or they would start laughing, and I'd be going, "What are you laughing at?" And then when I worked with these children, we could telepathically, I knew what they were needing. So that's a whole new different story. So I mean, I could just tell you stories all day. Then the third generation, rainbow children, and this is after 2000, and their auras are really the rainbow colors of all the different colors of the rainbow. So they are raising the vibrations of the planet. Now, when we're looking through all this, don't think, well, my child doesn't fit that category. It doesn't matter. This is just kind of looking at what it could be, what the characteristics could be. So since now, these are the different characteristics of the indigo children that were born in the 60s. And it's just very interesting because they were born to be warriors. And I really, really like that because they don't take anything from anybody, especially if somebody doesn't follow the rules and be nice to one another. And so, they take pride in trying to get this person to walk a more light and spiritual pathway. So they expect others to live as they do, of course, being honest, respectful. They do not understand why people have different philosophies, though. So a lot of times they'll listen to other people's opinions, but they may not agree with them. But that's just how they are. All right. They will become leaders and develop warrior personalities. A lot of times will feel like they are lost and they are not supposed to be here. A lot of our children are like that. They're going, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I've lived somewhere else. This is not my home. All right. So there is another, and I've kind of come up with this name, kaleidoscope children, because a lot of the children that I have worked with, they can see the different high frequencies of energy and light. What I felt like. And whenever I was younger, they can actually see the different frequencies, the different colors. And that can be found in sacred geometry, and it's for spiritual healing, awakening, and transformation. Okay. So they can connect to this spirit realm and the world around us by decoding the symbols and colors found in these patterns. So I think that because, these children are growing up around computers and technology. So I think it may be changing the way that they see things or perceive things, and they're born that way. So I just think I found that very, very interesting. So I talked about earlier, yes, you can be under the spectrum and still be intuitive. There's actually a medium who practices and has written books. His name is William Stillman, okay? And he had the higher form of autism, which is Asperger's syndrome, okay? And this is very interesting. He did write 3 different books about how it is to be a medium and also a psychic medium. So, and he felt like that the children that are born with autism spectrum disorders, that there is a purpose for them to teach us things and refocus on what is important to us as humanity, because they are all love, and they definitely have angels surrounding them. All right. So why should we talk about spirituality? Well, that whenever you are working with your child or working with other children, you need to really look at, well, do they think that there's a higher power? And sometimes that will help them know that they are not alone, that there are angels out there. There's the divine, there's light out there that's out there to help them. So parents can actually hinder a child's spiritual growth by ignoring if a child has questions about spirituality, and you just shut down the child and you go, I don't want to talk about that. That can actually harm their developing spirituality. So you always want to open up and let them ask questions. And if you don't know, find somebody that does, that they can talk to about the experiences that they're having. But I guarantee a lot of these parents whose children are going through something, they have also gone through. So they may not remember, but it will come to light. All right. So whenever you start working with a family or even your own child, the number one thing is to get information about the child, right? So what the number one thing is how old is the child? Because you got to look at where they are developmentally. So you're going to develop a program totally different from a 3-year-old who may be, having a great time talking to grandma or grandpa versus a 10-year-old and versus a teenager, because they're at different levels as a human in their life. So you have to look at the human aspect as much as the spiritual aspect. Okay, so you have to look at the different levels and what they are ready for. So sometimes teenagers won't talk to mom and dad, but they'll talk to somebody else who's experiencing the same thing. And then if you're working with a family, what kind of things do you want your child to know? How do you want to help them? Okay. And then how long has your child been aware of these experiences? Now, spiritual stressors can happen because if a child really doesn't know what's going on in the environment and they feel that energy, they feel other people's feelings, it may impact their daily life. It may impact their academics. It may impact, family, getting along with family members, shutting their door and not coming out. And socially, it may impact them. And we find a lot of times these children will have anxiety, will have stress because of everything going on. And so a lot of parents will begin to find help for their children. They'll go to psychologists, they'll go to counselors, and that may not be the only thing that is happening. So that's why you really have to listen to what's going on with your child. This list kind of breaks up different things that could be happening or what the child is experiencing. And sometimes if you ask the child, oh, well, let me see, do you feel like you can talk to animals? This may kind of alert you to something that you can even ask the child, or hears voices inside mine. So you may want to ask your child, do you hear spirit talking to you? Because I know I did. And I thought, what is going on? So that's how you open the conversation. And if a child is actually hearing voices in their head, that's when they can actually talk to them, like a conversation, like I'm talking to you, or you talk to a best friend, and that's how you can approach it. So this may open up some ideas, and especially teenager, you want to see if they want to use tools such as crystals, tarot cards, or oracle cards. And I put a Ouija board on this, uses tools such as an Ouija board, because that needs to be a discussion in its own. Because a lot of times teenagers will start experimenting, and that's when you need to get in there and say, why are you using an Ouija board? What is your intention? Okay, is the main purpose. All right. So religious preference is really important for you to know too when you work with a family or whenever you're working with your child. So, religion is very important to know. So if you have a mom or dad who are Catholic, or they're in a religion that really, they think it's woo-woo, if you bring out the crystals, do not bring out the crystals, because whatever you use and they don't believe in it, they're going to say, hell no. Okay. I'm not going to use that. So that's why you need to know, well, what type of religion are you in? What are your beliefs? So that you can find exercises for the child and you can help educate the family. You need to know all of this, right? And what kind of spiritual guidance do you want your child to have? Because if you're teaching a child, something about Buddhism and the parent doesn't want that, you really need to be careful, okay? Medical information, you need to know if the child is hyperactive, has autism, anxiety. You need to know this, because especially when you walk into a family situation, you may not know any of this. Now, I put in schizophrenia here because a lot of our children, if they're hearing voices and they take them to a medical doctor, they can be diagnosed as having schizophrenia. And that just means that that's how the medical community sees it. But there's been research out there that it kind of mediums use the same type of the brain, but it's more spiritual. So that is something that you definitely, even if a child has been diagnosed with schizophrenia, need to look at it and talk to the family. And this is just clinical. So I always let the parents know that, how the services that we're providing are a holistic approach. All right, that we look at the whole child and just not just medical. And I get them to make sure that they understand that. and that it's a spiritual services, it's like a medium, and that I am not a counselor, because you don't want to, use that counseling techniques whenever you're working with a family and teaching them about spiritual things. So it's two different things. And then I always, have them initial or sign something that they completely understand, because I want to make sure that they understand. And then to begin services, I always get them to sign that they give me permission to go ahead and work with their child and work with them, especially if you work with a child one-on-one. All right, so when you develop a program, these are the things that you'll need to look at, is get all the information, why the family needs your services. A lot of times when they are seeking services, they really need your help. Okay. And then have parents either question, and if you are a parent of a child, write down things that you want your child to learn, like almost like a annual board, a dream board that you're coming up with. And you might have your child work with you and say, this is what I want to do as well. And then write down what techniques or exercises you want to talk about. And we're going to do some in just a few minutes. Now, if you're working with a family, determine how many sessions and the duration of each sessions per week. So if you're doing something by Zoom, you may want to meet once a week. Or if the family really needs you, twice a week in the beginning, and then kind of taper off. And then, but you always need to find, am I going to be working with this family 3 months or 6 months down the line? Okay. So you always have to have that timeline. If you're working with your own child, you just you work with your child, you give them an exercise, work with them, do it with them as a family. And then you think you get okay and everything's fine. Something else may come up. And so you'll go, oh, I have to come up with something else now. So life is just interesting. You just never know. Okay. After each session, write down notes, or when you talk to your child, keep a journal so that you can evaluate the process, because you're going to forget after a while what actually happened. Okay. And if you're working with the family, make sure that there's a financial plan that's talked about and that they can actually cover the cost. And you always want to reevaluate, are we going in the right direction? Is this what you want from me? Just always talk to the family. And the family just may need consulting services, may just need a couple questions asked, okay? And may not need a direct service. And especially working with those teenagers, they might really need you, okay? All right, so now what I want you to do, and this is the one thing that we're going to talk about, is a scenario, okay? Oh, Jackson, he's 5 years old. I was thinking okay, so 5 years old, he lives with his mom, dad, and father, and younger sister. He is speaking to a grandfather deceased that he deceased 10 years ago. He does have an imaginary friend that he plays cards with. He is afraid of an entity, so he feels some other type of entity, and he's afraid of it when it's at home. It doesn't go follow him outside the house, but it's at home. So social life is significantly affected. Spiritual stressors moderately affected, and family is moderately. Okay, so he's got some stress there. He tends to be anxious, worried, and cries frequently. Tends to be withdrawn, hears voices in his mind, reports feeling different energies in the home, sleep problems since spirit is talking to him. So he's not able to sleep at night because spirit is talking to him. Okay. So some more information. His family is not a member of a church. Mom grew up Catholic. Father did not grow up in a religious home. Mom wants Jackson to believe in a higher power and hopes that he finds spirituality. He is not on medicine and no health concerns. He does have difficulty making friends and is bullied at school. And teacher reports that he plays by himself on the playground. Okay. All right, so this is just kind of summarizing the information. He appears to be an empath. He is a medium and psychic, and he uses clairsentience, which is clear sensation feeling, clairvoyant, clear seeing, clairaudience, clear hearing, and clear empathy. Okay, so he's got clear emotional feeling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing because we're going to discuss, okay? We're going to discuss things that you can think of, all right? Some strategies that you can help this child with. And so if you want to, you can unmute your mic if you have something that you want. If you have something that came to mind, you go, oh, I think this is what Jackson needs. Okay, so this right here, all right, I love this. This is one of those balls that go in and out, in and out. So one thing, because he is anxious, he needs to have some breathing exercises. And he's so little, he needs something that is very kinesthetic and that he can see, okay? So whenever you have this toy, you go, okay, so breathe in and then breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. So this will help him. Woo, gosh, it relaxes you as you're doing it, right? So whenever you're doing this, it teaches him, when I get anxious, I can know how to breathe in and out. And because he is 5, you really need to talk about it, that he is in control, all right? And that he can talk to whoever is around him and say, I have, right now, I don't want to play. Because you can even name this entity that's scaring him. So we can name him Mike, maybe, and say, okay, let's tell Mike not to bother you whenever you're trying to sleep. Let's set these boundaries. And if he starts talking to you, you say, go away. I'm not ready to talk. This right now, I'm trying to sleep, but I'll talk to you tomorrow. And then maybe the next day, say, okay, Mike, I'm ready to talk, and try to have that conversation to whoever is around him so that he feels like he is in control. Now, he is being bullied at school, so he is feeling alone. So the parent may need to talk to a counselor or someone at school to help him get friends. And you may want to tell him, it's okay, and these are the things that we can do to help you get friends at school. And if he wants to tell his friends about his imaginary friend, he can go ahead and tell them, hey, I have an imaginary friend, and you can call it that way, just so that he knows that it's normal, that he can talk about it. All right. Another thing that you can do to help him is through meditation. Okay. Kind of work on that breathing and meditation, because he is 5, only do it for 5 minutes. And that way it will slow down his mind, because if he's anxious, again, that will teach him how to breathe, right? He may want to draw whatever imaginary friend, if he's seeing somebody, he may, or a grandfather he's still seeing, he may want to draw a picture of them, or of the entity that he's afraid of. He may want to draw a picture of how he is feeling. Now, because he's an empath and he is bringing other people's feelings home with him from friends and everything, he may need to learn how to talk about feelings. Well, how are you feeling right now? What does it feel like when you're sad? What does it feel like when you're anxious? Draw me a picture. So you may need to find some books that talk about, being happy, sad, so that he understands, well, whenever I feel this way, you can put a word to how it is feeling. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling sad. Because when they're 5, they only feel happy and sad. So they don't really understand, anxiety. And you may want to bring out toys, puppets, or whatever, and role play with them. Well, if this guy comes to you, what can you do? And kind of role play with puppets. Because if he doesn't want to talk about it, bringing out toys will actually help him. Okay. So those are just a few things that you can actually talk about. You can also talk about putting up shields if they feel afraid, because I know superheroes are really big right now. You can actually talk about I am brave, and have a mantra or a prayer each day so that they feel like, yes, I am brave. I can handle it. Again, we're embracing this experience. We are not afraid of it. We're going to experience this as a part of us. And what can we do? And if if your child needs to sleep with you a couple of nights a week, it's okay. But you may want to get a nightlight. You may want to talk about it, make it a stuffed animal for them to sleep with so that they feel comforted. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen one more time because I have some other ideas. And I am, okay, share. For some reason, whenever I've been sharing my screen, I haven't been able to see you. So, okay. So hopefully, okay. So there are other techniques right here, and also doing yoga. I had put this on there. All right. They may want to, you might want to start educating a child also about the spiritual world and what it means and everything, because it is so enlightening when they know that there's something on the other side. And then, of course, once your child starts accepting it, and celebrate what they have, because that is a part of them. All right. So if you have any questions, oh, yes, definitely celebrate. Let me know. And you can always email me at info@michellehendersonmedium.com. You know where to find me. So if you have any questions, now I can always do a discovery call with you. If I didn't answer any of your questions, we can always set up a Zoom meeting and do that. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for participating today. And I hope this answers a lot of your questions. And again, embrace that spirituality, the intuitiveness, and don't be afraid of it. And find somebody, seek help if you need it, because there are a lot of light workers out there.